This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth, for competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty, for the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. We have another great show, and it's not great just because we have shows. It's not just great because this may be entertaining, because all of these Clinton and Mueller and all kinds of other scandals that are swirling around the president right now are not being investigated by our inert and worthless Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. Sure, that's entertaining. That boosts ratings for Fox News. It boosts ratings for CNN. It boosts ratings for MSNBC. But Larry Klayman and your Freedom Watch are not into ratings, although I do want you to listen to the show. We have a growing audience each week. In fact, just last week, we got 30,000 people to hear it on YouTube. You can go to Radio America's blog at radioamerica.com. You can go to freedomwatchusa.org. Please listen to our show. Share it with your friends, because you're getting not just the unvarnished truth here, is that we don't just report the news, as the lead-in says. We make the news. And that's the difference. And that's really what separates us in many ways from a lot of other public interest groups. You know, we're not just looking for documents. We're filing hard-hitting cases to get justice, because we don't have a Justice Department. But let me tell you, with regard to documents, as you know, last week we had a big victory before Judge Emmett Sullivan in Washington, D.C., in the federal court. He ordered that all of Robert Mueller, the special counsel, and his staff's communications with the media be released by September 4th. That's right after the end of the summer. That's right after Labor Day. This could be extremely explosive, because those communications with the media likely contain grand jury information. And under Rule 6E of the Rules of Criminal Procedure, it's illegal, it's a crime to release grand jury information. There are other statutes at play too. So if we can show that, and I'm confident that we can, then Mueller either will have to resign or the president will have cover to fire him. Even Rosenstein, if he's still there, that's the deputy attorney general, that corrupt individual that works under that worthless attorney general, Jeff Sessions, even they'll have to fire him. We need to end this now. The president's going into negotiations with Kim Jong-un of North Korea with regard to nuclear weapons. We've got Iran on the horizon. They've infiltrated Syria. They're on the doorstep of Israel. We're going to be possibly drawn into a Middle Eastern war, I believe, shortly, because the Israelis will never tolerate having Iran on its border. Iran is even worse than North Korea. It's just been quiet for a little while because they're doing stuff under the table. They're developing missiles. They're developing all kinds of weapons to threaten not just Israel, but Europe and the West. And, of course, they're religious fanatics. You know, Kim Jong-un, he doesn't have any religion, okay? He's just a bad guy. He's a dictator. He's a despot. But the Iranian mullahs believe that it's their mission to kill all Christians and Jews, or to have us submit to slavery and pay them taxes. I mean, that's basically what Muhammad taught. Let no mistake about it, Muhammad was a degenerate. That gets to another issue, but I'll get to it later, because that deals with Benghazi and the so-called video that caused it, which never caused the Benghazi massacre, by the way, but the video was justified. In any event, let's talk about what's going on this week in Washington, D.C., in terms of not just what Freedom Watch is doing, but what other people are doing. And this case that's percolating right now, where Mueller's going to have to cough up his documentation of communications with the media, is super important. And if you'll go to our website at freedomwatchusa.org and donate and sign our petition to remove Robert Mueller, we will send you a free courtroom drawing of my appearance in front of Judge Sullivan just about a week ago. It'll be really nice. You can frame it. You can hang it on the wall. And I want to give it to you because I want to thank you for your support. We really need your strong financial support. We're the mouse that roared. We're your Justice Department. There is no Justice Department today. It's the Department of Injustice and Corruption. And I'd like you to have this photograph because you are part of this. You're the reason that we're able to exist. You're the reason that we represent you, because we need to bring back this country to the vision of our founding fathers, and it's sinking quickly. We can see the decline in ethics and morality. It was John Adams, our second American president and founding father, who said, without ethics, morality, and religion, there will be no lasting liberty. And we're starting to see the breakdown of that. And let me tell you what else we're working on. We have a campaign to remove Attorney General Jeff Sessions. He's an absolute disgrace. Everybody's always said he's a nice guy, but nice guys don't look the other way when there's a hard issue. Nice guys obey the law and enforce the law. He's done some things with regard to immigration, that's fine, but he's overlooking a lot of different scandals. And the president was absolutely right this week when he said that Jeff Sessions should never have recused himself from the Russia investigation, or even more weighty in terms of analysis, he should never have accepted the job, and he should now resign. He's got to resign. Now, we're going to have Ryan Bundy on in the show later. You know the whole Bundy saga, the Bundy Ranch, Bunkerville, how they were persecuted by Obama's Justice Department under Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch, the Bureau of Land Management, how these government entities lied to the court and to the jury in the criminal prosecution of the Bundys, how they were kept in prison for 2 years, not even allowed bail, which was completely illegal, how they were not even allowed their right of counsel by having me defend them directly in the criminal prosecution. I was there defending them, giving advice behind the scenes, helping Ryan, helping others. I did everything I could. I also had collateral cases here in Washington, D.C. to pry out information. But that was also illegal by this Obama Harry Reid judge. But when the stench became so bad in the courtroom, when there was so much lying by the FBI and the Bureau of Land Management, when a whistleblower by the name of Larry Wooten came forward and revealed that there was a kill list on the heads of the Bundys, that they were being disparaged because of their Mormon faith as subhuman and retards, and all this other stuff. This very corrupt judge, Gloria Navarro, which even the Las Vegas Review-Journal, a mainstream publication, said that the prosecutors have a friend in Gloria Navarro. She was violating all the defendants' constitutional rights. Even she was forced to dismiss the indictment because she doesn't want to go down with the burning ship. She doesn't want to go up in a burning rat's nest because someday perhaps there'll be a Democrat president again. And since she's a Latina, by the way, I like Latin people. I'm from Miami, and I've represented many of them, so it's not in any way a besmirch against them. But as a Latina woman, she has a good chance of going up to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court, even though she's not too bright. She's reportedly had failed the bar exam in Nevada 5 times. In any event, but that doesn't stop people from going to the Supreme Court. Believe me, they're not super intellects up there, regardless of what people say. But here's the situation. Throughout the Bundy prosecution, at the beginning, as you may know, I had a telephone conversation with then Attorney Jeff Sessions. And I said, Jeff, I knew him from before. I met him as a young lawyer in Mobile, Alabama, when I was representing a client on a particular matter. I saw him over the years at various conservative events. And, again, he seemed to be a nice guy. But, nice guys don't do what he does or doesn't do. So I asked him during that telephone conversation, right after he was confirmed as Attorney General, Jeff, would you please review the Bundy prosecution? It's a criminal prosecution by Obama because Obama wants to take the land away from the ranchers in the West and give it to radical environmental interests. Harry Reid was involved, his corrupt son. Rory was involved. It was reported they were going to sell off the land to Chinese environmental interests, undoubtedly, probably getting kickbacks. I mean, this is the way it's done in Nevada, particularly Las Vegas. It's the capital of corruption in terms of the mafia. So I asked him to review it, and he said he would. And then, despite all of my entreaties to have him continue to have meetings with me, I sent him information. He never sat down to review it. And it was only when this corrupt judge, Gloria Navarro, had to dismiss the case because of all the lying and withholding of exculpatory evidence and denial of constitutional rights to the Bundys and the other defendants. There were about 15 to 16 other defendants in that case of peaceful protesters that came when the government beat the crap out of the Bundys, killed their cattle, and tried to take their land. Well, after that happened, after there was a first mistrial in the Bundy case, Sessions says, okay, I'm going to review it. I wrote him a very strong letter. But you know what happened? Weeks later, the indictment was dismissed totally with prejudice. Sessions had his prosecutors, undoubtedly, he had to be in charge at that time, file a motion for reconsideration. That is still pending with this judge. Now, how can you be so two-faced? How can you say at one point, I'm going to review this matter, and then allow your prosecutors to file a motion for reconsideration for one of the biggest injustices in American history? So this is the person we're dealing with. We have to remove Jeff Sessions. We have to do it fast. We're left defenseless. Freedom Watch is your only Justice Department. You know, when I was at Judicial Watch, I did what I now do. Judicial Watch gets documents. Okay, that's good. They give them to the press. They get on TV. They get on Fox. Fitton's on there all the time. But he's not a lawyer. He can't go into court. And the people that he has around him aren't trial lawyers. We are trial lawyers at Freedom Watch. We're doing the heavy lifting. And although we come upon judges, sometimes they don't let us do it, we file enough cases that they finally get through in the end. And this Mueller case is an example of it. I don't give up. I'm never going to give up. And I need your strong financial support. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. freedomwatchusa.org. Please contribute to our cause. Sign our petition to have me appointed special counsel. Sign our petition to remove Jeff Sessions. Get a free courtroom drawing. If you donate to us, we'll send it to you. And we need you. You're our lifeblood. You're our fellow patriots. You're our citizens' army. So I really want you to join what we're doing. freedomwatchusa.org. We're going to be back with another segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman in just a few minutes, and we're going to talk about the pardons that President Trump issued this week, because this is important. We have to understand it in context, and he did the right thing. This president is a great benefit to the American people.
Dangerous.
You don't care. Use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I want to talk now about the pardons that President Trump issued this week. He pardoned Dinesh D'Souza. We all know who he is. He's a great filmmaker. He's a conservative filmmaker. Spends most of his time in Hollywood. He's one of the few people in Hollywood who will go up against the left. He obviously got involved in a campaign finance scandal a few years ago. He had been bundling money. It wasn't the right thing to do, but it wasn't really a bad thing. I mean, they have what they call malum prohibitum and malum in se. He didn't hurt anybody. In fact, this is commonly done, and 99.9% of the time it's never prosecuted. But Obama didn't like him. Clinton didn't like him because he did films that were very critical of them. He exposed their hypocrisy. He exposed the fact that Barack Obama was very favorable towards Muslim interests and against Christian and Jewish interests, that he had a similar background to Obama, but he came to this country and became a capitalist, but Obama became a socialist. So they really hated him. So they made a special effort through the U.S. attorney, this very corrupt U.S. attorney in New York City who goes on CNN and MSNBC all the time. He's actually another Indian American, which no aspersions to that. The Indians are very hardworking people. I like them a lot. I even like their food. I eat their whatever I can. But he was persecuted, and he was one of the people that were pardoned this week by President Trump, and he did the right thing. And Trump, in the past, pardoned Arpaio. And you know what's most amazing? That hypocrite McCain, you know, it's sad that he's dying. Nobody wants him to die, but he is really a vicious, evil, hateful person. In his book, he attacks Arpaio as a felon. Arpaio's not a felon. He was convicted by a Clinton-appointed judge of a misdemeanor. That's ridiculous, an alleged Hispanic profiling. You know, he sent people to day worker sites to see if they were illegal immigrants. Well, where are you going to find them? Okay, so, you know, this is ridiculous. And these pardons that Trump has issued, of course, Arpaio's was several months ago, they were quite legitimate. But I have a message for the president. Why don't you go ahead and pardon everybody now in the Mueller investigation? You know, whether or not Paul Manafort is guilty or Rick Gates is partner of any crimes in the past, way before this investigation of so-called Russian collusion and obstruction of justice, Mueller does not have the authorization to proceed. It's not part of his mandate. So these indictments are totally illegal, and the president should pardon Manafort and Gates right now and end this agony. In fact, they're being persecuted by this very corrupt judge of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, Amy Berman. We've talked about her before. Highly partisan. I've had her on cases. She's a total hack. Pardon General Mike Flynn. He's a good man. We now know that the FBI and Comey didn't think he had lied. He was forced to plead out because otherwise they were going to indict his entire family, his son, and nearly everybody else. Pardon Flynn right now and the agony. Pardon your son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Pardon Michael Cohen. Okay, these people are all wrapped up, whether or not anything happened, in illegal grand juries investigations of them by Robert Mueller that go beyond his mandate of what he's supposed to do as special counsel. You know, I'll tell you something. I believe that O.J. Simpson was guilty. Obviously, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to think that he didn't kill Nicole Simpson. But when I was watching that trial and I saw that the police were taking blood out to the scene of the crime, there was no reason for that. And then lying on the witness stand about it. They were going to make sure that O.J. was convicted. I said, you know, you can't convict a guy when the police play games like that. I don't care what he did. And in fact, I made a bet with a lawyer friend of mine. I said, I bet he'll be acquitted in less than 2 hours. I gave him it was a 50-1 bet on $10. I made $500 when he was acquitted in 2 hours. You know, you can't have a justice system that's corrupt and is working against the people, regardless of what the defendant does. We are a democracy, and therefore Trump should pardon everybody. And perhaps he should consider pardoning himself at the same time. You know, right now people got to step up to the plate. I think Rudy Giuliani, I'm really glad he's on the case. You know, he loses it sometimes. He has a few drinks before he goes on Fox News with Hannity, and he has a loose tongue. But, you know, he's doing a good job, but he's not doing enough, because he should convince the president to take some very strong actions now to fire Mueller, fire Rosenstein, fire Sessions, pardon the people, clean it out, and do what he needs to be done, because the American people see how successful this president is. He's the only president since Reagan who has any sense of right and wrong, and I don't care what he says. I don't care what his language is. He's doing a great job for the American people, and we need to remove these people that are trying to destroy him, the Muellers, the Comeys, the John Brennans, the James Clappers, the whole rest of them. And it's time that the president step up to the plate and take action, because he's going into some very serious negotiations in North Korea and later with Iran. So go to our website at freedomwatchusa.org. freedomwatchusa.org. Contribute to our cause. We'll send you a free courtroom drawing of what your support has accomplished. We'll be right back.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with my good friend and client, Ryan Bundy. Brian really was the hero of the former Bundy prosecutions that were thrown out. He represented himself, and he really understood the facts. He understood the law. He's a constitutional expert. Our listeners know all about the case, Ryan, and what's going on. I just pointed out also that, because we were talking about Attorney General Jeff Sessions, that when a mistrial was declared, the Attorney General said he'd finally review the case after I lobbied him for a year. But in just a few weeks later, his prosecutors out there in the Las Vegas U.S. Attorney's Office filed a motion for reconsideration. Unbelievable, two-faced in many ways. And that was the lead-in for me to say that although I cannot endorse anybody as the head of a public interest group, I can endorse people personally. And I endorse you as governor of Nevada. I know you're running for governor of Nevada. And I want you to tell the American people and our listeners why it is you want to be governor of Nevada in the context of everything that's going on in your cases, in your life, and how you view the state of Nevada and the country today.
Well, thanks, Larry. I appreciate all the accolades you've just given me. And, the reason that I am running for governor, well, there's several reasons. But this issue with the state land ownership and state sovereignty is not going to be solved until a state is willing to stand up. And when I mean state, I mean the governor, the state legislature, the attorney general, the state leadership. They've got to have a backbone, and they've got to be strong enough and to understand the principles well enough to say, hey, what's going on in here in America is not correct. What's going on in our state is not correct. We are going to stand as a state, as defined and set up by our founding fathers, and we're not going to be treated as a territory or a subservient to the federal government any longer. And I do not see a candidate running for office that's strong enough to do that. And so I feel compelled to fill that position. And so that's one of the major reasons I'm running. The other reason is because of what's going on in these cases and trials, such as our own. But our own is not the only one where people are being ramrodded, railroaded down a track, just headed for conviction. And many men are being tried and run through these vindictive prosecutions that have not committed crimes, that are not guilty of the things they are being accused. And yet there is no outlet. They just, again, they're on the railroad and it's heading down the tracks, and there's no turnoff. And that's got to stop. Justice is not being administered. And so as a governor, as the chief executive officer of Nevada, I will be able to affect that. I will be able to put a stop to those tyrannies. The elected officials, which I intend to be one, their main duty is to protect the people in their rights. And these rights are being violated terribly by the very organization, our government, that's supposed to be protecting them. I don't understand that. And so, again, I feel compelled to fulfill that position so that I can protect people's rights.
Well, that's right. You're going to have a lot of power as governor of Nevada, at least within the confines of Nevada. And you can set an example for the rest of the country as to what should be done. I run Freedom Watch right now. I founded it before that Judicial Watch. I'm a private lawyer. That was my capacity in working with y'all out there, your great family, the Bundy family, and others. But I've seen this dual system of justice. I've seen the dual system of injustice. And in fact, the president now is experiencing the same thing, and he understands. He's probably the first president that has understood just how corrupt our justice system is. And you can really make a difference out there. And I want to work with you on that, because what I saw in your prosecution, this was the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire 40-year legal career. And the only reason the judge dismissed it was because she had to. It was so bad it was going to affect her livelihood and reputation into the future. And, of course, right now, Ryan, there's still a motion for reconsideration pending, and the judge hasn't even brought in this whistleblower, Larry Wooten. Tell us about that.
Well, Larry Wooten is a BLM employee who was assigned to, find out what was going on. Anyway, he was kind of a watchdog for all the other things going on. And now he was noticing and witnessing the atrocities that was going on. He began to report them to his superiors, which they just turned a blind eye to it all. In fact, it got to the point where they demoted him from a position and took all of his information that he had gathered, basically stole it from him, and then and reprimanded him more or less. And so he, I guess, being a man of righteous conscience to some degree, came out with a whistleblower letter, so to speak, expressing and stating all that was going on. Well, that letter was damning, terribly damning to the BLM and National Park Service employees, as well as the prosecutors.
And the FBI.
Prosecutors,
Yep.
yes, and the FBI. Now, that letter has never made it to the record on the court records, but that's part of, I believe, what encouraged the dismissal, because I believe that the judge dismissed this case not for our benefit, but to protect the exposure of all that was going wrong, and to trying to save the government and its agencies embarrassment. Now, furthermore, the government tried to discredit his letter, and so because of that discreditation, he wrote a second letter. Now, the second letter, I understand, is multiple times damning, more so. But they have hidden that letter and kept it from us. I have not seen it. They will not let it out. They will not even release it to the defendants. I understand the defendant attorney or something can go into the federal office and read it, but they can't take a photograph of it. They can't take a copy of it. They can't take it's that damning to the government. Put it that way.
Well, we've seen this going on, Ryan. In Washington D.C. with these Robert Mueller investigations, with Justice Department cover-ups of illegal surveillance of spies in the Trump campaign. So what you're saying is that you now have, regrettably, a personal experience in this dual system of justice. You've been acquitted in 2 trials now. You represented yourself brilliantly. Your brother Ammon did in Oregon as well. And you know what this is all about. And, to see it is to believe it, to experience it. You were in prison for almost 2 years, no bail. And you're peaceful people. Everybody could see that. You never carried arms. You never did anything. And even the protesters that came, they didn't point the arms at the federal agents, and they were simply defending themselves. So
I do want to correct that. Yes, I was carrying arms, and I had every right to do so. That's one of our guaranteed rights by the Constitution, to keep and to bear arms. And so there's nothing wrong with bearing arms. That's one of our. It's just like the freedom of speech. We have the right to speak. I have the right to carry arms.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with that. And if I misspoke, I didn't mean to. But I'm a member of the NRA myself, so I agree with that, but they created this false pretext that that everybody was threatening the federal government with arms, which was totally false. That's what I meant.
Yeah, that is totally false. That's one of the lies that went forth in the court, and that's interesting enough that even the Clark County sheriff lied, blatantly lied on the stand under oath in an attempt to get convictions on some of the men. It wasn't in my trial; it was in a previous trial, but the same case. And that I just don't understand. In fact, we put a video together showing forth his lies, where we have actual video coverage of what was actually going on, where the sheriff, is in the video. He's speaking with us, and then we put that side by side along the transcription of his testimony on the stand. And they're not even close to the same. And I just don't understand why a sheriff would lie.
Well, in today's world, regrettably, lying is perhaps more frequent than telling the truth. That's why I admire you and your family so much, is because one of the reasons is because you're truthful and you just tell it like it is, and you don't back down, much like our founding fathers. And
well, thank you.
And this is so important, because there are very few people like Ryan Bundy. People need to go out and support him. Ryan, how can they support you, financially and otherwise?
I do need some financial support. Campaigns are, they take some money to run, and I have very little of it right now. The problem is I've had some managerial mishaps, and so I'm kind of in between trying to get things set back up to where I can receive funds, donations, and so forth. And I don't even know how to tell you to do that at this moment. So hopefully within the next week I'll have that figured out. But I'm needing some donations. I'm needing some volunteer. I need an accountant. to help me with campaign finance reporting to the state and a few things like that. So, and I need people to perhaps volunteer to make phone calls, to reach out. The main part of the campaign is to get the message out, to reach the people. And with 3 million voters in the state of Nevada, I can't do that all on my own. So, is there
an email address they can reach you at this point if people wanted to volunteer, if they want to help you, if they want to donate?
Yes, that's probably the best way to contact me right now. That is governorbundy@gmail.com. Just governorbundy@gmail.com.
And once you get it all set up, and I understand the difficulties that you're going through. I ran for the U.S. Senate in Florida back in 2003, 2004. I had to change my campaign managers a couple times. I won't get into it in depth. But, the people in the political arena, they're very fast and loose, and you're an honest person, and I'm an honest person, and I had to let my campaign manager go because I didn't think he was acting properly. He was representing other people at the same time. He said he'd be exclusive to me. And that's the kind of thing that goes on. But that's why you need a Ryan Bundy, because we need to break through this. People don't think that Ryan doesn't have a chance of winning. They're wrong. Look, everybody discounted Donald Trump. He may be worth billions of dollars, but he spent very little money on that campaign. He's actually cheap, much to his credit. And Ryan needs the resources. Yes, he needs the financial support and campaign contributions, but he also needs your moral support and your prayers and the family's prayers, because this can be done. And, of course, Nevada is one of the most corrupt states in the United States. I mean, you've got Las Vegas, Sin City, and Ryan will clean it up. And it's a beautiful state. It's a great state. I really love the state of Nevada. Every time I go to visit you all out there, I enjoy it. And it needs somebody like you to run it, Brian.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. To put the chances of winning into some perspective, we went through that federal trial, and the conviction rate in the federal system is 98%. Plus or minus or so. And so basically I had a 2% chance of winning, and yet I was charged with, I think, 23 counts, and I won all of them.
We fought the law. We fought the law, Ryan, and we won.
And we won. Well,
we won.
We were on the law's side. We weren't fighting the law. They were fighting the law.
Yeah, I meant that facetiously. I know what you mean. The law in quotes. Okay. Anyway, we only have about 20 seconds left of this segment, so I want to thank you for everything you've done. I want the American people to support you, not just in Nevada but around the country. There aren't very few Ryan Bundys. In fact, I don't know of any more except for his father, Clive, and his brothers, who will stand up to the tyranny the way you did. Thank you, and God bless you, Ryan.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
We'll be right back.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
This is the verdict segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. I want you to know what we've been doing. You need to go to our website at freedomwatchusa.org, freedomwatchusa.org, see the cases that we're involved in, see the investigations, see my public educational activities. President Obama says he wants to create millions of Obamas around the world, God forbid. Well, I want to have many Ryan Bundys created around the world. And, without tooting my own horn, Larry Klayman's people that will stand up for what's right and wrong. So we need your support. And as I said, if you donate to our cause, we'll send you a free artist drawing of your donations, what they're doing, because you can see me in court. In federal court, you can't have cameras, but you can have a federal courtroom drawing artist do something, and he did. And we'll give you a copy of it. But here's some of the cases that we've got, in addition to the Mueller cases, to have him removed. We're going to the Supreme Court with regard to the Benghazi scandal with Hillary Clinton, her use of a private email server, which gave up the coordinates of Ambassador Chris Stevens, which resulted in the death of our client's sons, Pat Smith and Charles Woods, Sean Smith and Ty Woods. These were our heroes in Benghazi that were working undercover. And it was Hillary's responsible, either by intent or by being negligent, using that private email server, which was unsecure, by the admission of even the corrupt James Comey, who was then head of the FBI. This resulted in the breach of security and for the terrorists to find the location of the ambassador and these two heroes. She's responsible for wrongful death. She wasn't acting within the scope of her authority as Secretary of State at the time, because if she was, she'd be obeying the rules of the State Department and the U.S. government and not using an unsecure private email, which, she later broke up with and also destroyed with BleachBit. She also had her corrupt lawyers help her doing that. And, of course, they've never been held accountable by anybody, even a bar association, because the bar associations tend to be to the left. They're not going to do anything against the Clintons. So this is something which needs to be addressed. It's going up to the Supreme Court. We need your support. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. Donate handsomely to our cause. We need to grow. We need to be bigger. And this is important because, I founded Judicial Watch back in 1994. I ran it for about 10 years before I left to go to try to run for the U.S. Senate. I didn't win. And frankly, probably that was God's gift because I'm better from the outside. There's very little that can be accomplished inside the U.S. Senate, particularly now. But I want you to understand the differences between Judicial Watch and Freedom Watch. Judicial Watch is run by a non-lawyer, Tom Fitton. He doesn't really understand totally what goes on in the legal profession. I taught him some stuff. And they have other lawyers there who are very good at Freedom of Information Act cases. I give them credit for that. But they don't bring these hard-hitting cases, and that's the difference between Freedom Watch and Judicial Watch today. So you've got to go to freedomwatchusa.org if you really want to donate to someone who's in the trenches, bringing meaningful lawsuits, trying to get justice, not just getting documents so you can go on Sean Hannity or Fox News, but actually bringing hard-hitting cases by someone who runs a group who's actually a trial attorney, and that's important. Now, I want to talk about a lot of things that are going to be going on into the future in this country. The country's in dire shape. We're in worse shape than we were before 1776 on July 4th in my birthplace of Philadelphia. The colonies, they had their issues with the king, but they didn't have this moral corruption like we have today. Look at some of our millennials who are going out shooting up schools and things like that. Look at the infiltration of people from other countries, and I'm not against legal immigration. I think immigration's good. I'm only second generation myself. But we have people coming into this country that want to destroy this country. The president has been correct in trying to limit that, to build a wall. Mexicans are good people generally, by and large. I'm not talking about that. They're hardworking. I know all about that. But there are a lot of issues here, and this is why we need to save this president, because he's the only one who's ever called it like it is, even more so than even Ronald Reagan, believe it or not. And I love Ronald Reagan. So go to our website at freedomwatchusa.org. Donate, because we are doing everything we can to defend this president and to get Robert Mueller and his hacks off the president's back. freedomwatchusa.org. Join our citizens' army. Be part of our cause. Rise up. Bring this country back to greatness. I'll be back next week with more guests, with more new news. We don't just report the news. At Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman, we make the news. God bless you, God bless your family, and God save America.